All right. We've got a few questions here. If you guys want to take any more or write down any more, we'd be glad to take them. And I think that's still in the back. So let's see. I was trying to figure out where to start here. I'll start on this one. What is the importance of zoning? And what, if anything, would you change about the current zoning laws in the town? And that's a question for all of you.
Well, zoning is important. Where I live, if they wanted to rezone my neighborhood, that could affect me greatly. And not only that, but sometimes good growth is different than just growth. Zoning is an issue that we need to look at. There have been several times that, well, just for instance, in my neighborhood, I was summoned, I guess, as a landowner, that they wanted to put a trailer in front of my house. Well, I'm not against trailers, but there's a house already there. And the zoning board offered to let them put that trailer there, but because I was a landowner, I had a say in it. And I said, why would a person that already owns a house want to put a trailer behind it? They voted against it, and I appreciated that.
I guess zoning is one of the issues that you just don't talk about in Mitchell County. Spruce Pine's the only place in Mitchell County that has any zoning regulations, and outside of Spruce Pine, it's a bad word. But we have downtown business districts, we have residential housing districts, and we keep them all separated and try our best to not interfere with one another. We have setback regulations where if someone comes in to build on a lot, they can't crowd the property lines, they can't crowd the streets, they have to follow the setback regulations. Zoning is important to our town, and I don't know if it's changed some since I've been on the board and left in 2015, but we really didn't have that many issues in zoning in Spruce Pine, but I don't know that any of the zoning regulations are arbitrary to anybody. We do have some areas in town that we need to do some things in our zoning areas, but right now I don't know of anything that's wrong with the zoning in Spruce Pine.
So my perspective on zoning is that, once again, it's our problem. Because we're all neighbors, right? If we're all sitting on 100 acres and we all were neighbors, the backside of my house and my old car and my old pickup and the stuff I decided to leave out over the weekend really wouldn't matter that much to you. But because we're down to 1/8 of an acre lots or quarter acre lots or half acre lots or 2 acre lots in town, now it's down to us to be really good neighbors. We have to be good neighbors because what we do directly affects the 6 people or 5 people that live around us that we share a lot line with. And if we all were good neighbors and everybody could be depended upon to be an excellent neighbor and everybody had the same level of living standards, there'd be no issue. But that's not our world. And so at some point, that discussion has to be had and zoning has to be enforced. And so we've got, and it's never going to make everybody happy because we've got people on one side of the argument that want to be sovereign landowners and want to do whatever the heck they want on their land. And on the other side, we have the people that want everybody to live in a cookie cutter little house that all look the same and everybody has the exact same standard of living and it's enforced on them. And there's no way to come to terms between those two arguments. So in terms of zoning, I think common sense is the way to go. If there's an obvious impact being made to the value of somebody else's property, then it needs to be talked about. If there's an obvious issue that's hurting tourism in our town or business in our town, it needs to be talked about. And we need to come to a common sense style of zoning around that. That's kind of where I stand in terms of zoning.
Awesome. Okay, moving along here. How could we have more year-round tourism downtown so that businesses don't feel the need to close seasonally?
Well, that's a tough question because we don't have skiing. Our summer activities are limited here. We do get some motel rooms rented during skiing season and stuff like that, but pretty much we have a great tourism through 3 seasons of the year, but winter is tough in our town. It is, there's no doubt. What we have here to attract them here in the wintertime is limited. I wished we could have a ski resort in Mitchell County, and but it's not here. I don't know where it will ever be here or not, but tourism works well 3 seasons of the year here, but we struggle with it in wintertime, and we do need to see if there's somewhere or some way we can find a way to boost our winter tourism here. That's an issue that should be brought up and discussed and looked at really closely. Anybody else have anything you'd like to say?
So the short-term rentals do fairly well here in the winter seasons because of the draw and the lack of places to stay in, say, Sugar Mountain and Beach Mountain and Limbo Falls. I guess my comment to that particular question is, if somebody wants to come up with an entrepreneurial think tank and wants to start putting things in place that will keep some business alive through the wintertime, those citizens would have my support in whatever way that I could give it. I think it's a mistake to look at the 3 of us and the current sitting town council members and the mayor as the owners of the town. Come up with the ideas, present the ideas, and we'll back them.
And what Wayne said is right, absolutely. It's tough decisions to make and tough to try to have tourism here in the winter hours and winter times, but we need think tanks. We need people to come up with ideas that we can work with, and it needs to be done by private individuals or private ownership, and the town can assist in any way we can.
Well, think about it. You've got the Blue Ridge Parkway. And just this year, it was enabled to stay open for tourism and tell people about tourism. But I think the biggest thing that Spruce Pine has is y'all, your attitude. That's what draws people. Why does everybody want to come and move to Spruce Pine? Because you guys. You got a good attitude. You got a smile on your face. You got law enforcement. Does any of you not lock your doors? I'm sure a lot of you don't lock your doors. So there's a lot of reasons to live in Spruce Pine. And tourism, I think that directly comes by you all and your attitude.
Wayne had mentioned the short-term rentals. There's a question in here about Airbnbs. That's a loaded one. Anybody care to take that one?
That's something that I don't really understand what the question is about Airbnbs, is it?
Guess what the question was is, nationwide, you see somewhat of a pushback against, Airbnbs. I know in my industry, we do a lot of these. It's almost a rarity that I don't now in the construction industry. Especially if it's something where they're not going to be there, a second home, it's automatically an Airbnb. I know that we have quite a few of them in town. You have any opinion one way or the other?
Where does the pushback come from? Motels, hotels?
I think that's part of it, yes. That it's bad, that it discourages that they're not having to pay the occupancy tax that the hotel's having to pay. And then also I think it's driving up driving up home prices.
So if you own Airbnb in Mitchell County, you don't pay an occupancy tax? I didn't know that. I thought you did.
Do you?
That is now, right? You do now.
Okay.
Okay.
You have to now.
I don't see what the pushback would be from that. I mean, if we had 6 or 8 or 10 motels in Spruce Pine, we don't have them. And I don't know that we'll ever have them. I don't know that we have the traffic flow and the people for a chain hotel or motel. I hope we do someday. But right now, what we've got, I think Airbnbs fit fine. I really do.
I manage a short-term rental, and I try to keep a pulse on it. I really wanted the Pine Valley Hotel before it sold, and I'm going to say this out loud. It was available for purchase, and we didn't buy it. And so, what Philip said is exactly right. That the demographics here, they've tried multiple times to pool, the EDC has tried multiple times. There's been an effort to get a chain hotel in downtown or Grassy Creek or somewhere along Grassy Creek. I know up above the Parkway, the firehouse, there was talk about a hotel there at one point. Brenda Sparks' property at the top of Burleson Hill, she was in negotiations at one point or talking to a hotel there. There's been talks, lots of talks. It's not that those talks haven't happened. The issue is that we don't have the traffic year-round to support a major chain hotel at the margins that they want, and currently, with the interest carry that they would have to pay on their note, it's not feasible. So we have a difficult situation where we either have to open homes to allow people to come here to stay because those people bring money and frequent our coffee shops and our restaurants, or we tax the fool out of them and chase away what little bit of tourism we have. And I would say, again, that comes down to if myself or one of you all want to put together $4 million to build a hotel, and that's actually a viable situation for you, more power to you. And I can guarantee you're going to be full. I really think a small hotel, I don't think the Blue Ridge Boutique Hotel has any trouble keeping their rooms full. Or at least a decent occupancy rate. The same's true for if somebody local wanted to do a small hotel. I don't think that's going to be an issue. There's 3 months or so ago, I checked on Airbnb, and I believe inside Spruce Pine, there were 98 Airbnbs. Mine stays full, year-round, if I wanted to. And so what I'm saying is people are coming here, and we're either going to accommodate those people that are coming here, or we're going to chase them off. But we can't just sit there and poke at everybody. And again, people that sit in government are not the people that determine whether or not that comes here. Those people have come here. They've been offered things to come here. There's been a concerted effort of bringing them here. Nothing is stuck because it doesn't make financial sense for the chains to come.
They're coming here, they need somewhere to stay. And if we've got that many Airbnbs in this area, what would you do without them? Where would the people stay? Where would they'd go somewhere else? They wouldn't stay in our area if it wasn't for them. I'd love to think that someday we'd have the demographics and the population and the traffic to have a nice chain motel here. But I really don't see it in the future.
Yeah, don't feel free. Some of these are just addressed to no one. We have some ones that are addressed to specific people here. But any plans with the current growing homeless population?
I don't know whether I want to address that or not. That's a tough question, really, honestly. I have firsthand seen it, and with working with the town and as public works director, I've seen where we do have that situation in Spruce Pine. But it's never been in a situation that we've ever sat down and addressed that I know of. it may be time that we look at that. I think it's seasonal. From what I've seen, everything moves south this time of year and come back in the spring. But honestly, I don't think it's ever been addressed in Spruce Pine.
Has anybody got, let me see, just a second. Has anybody got an idea how many homeless people live in Spruce Pine? Anybody? 34. 34 people. And we've got intimately with one of the individuals, and I guess the question that we ask him is, why do you do this? He said, because I want to. How do you address that?
So it is a problem. And I know there are organizations, faith-based organizations that are reaching out to them and doing a great job at it. I would love to see that supported by our community, whatever way we can. I think law enforcement plays a key part in this. I think if we're going to have zoning between us as neighbors, we better have some zoning about homeless people. They're people. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean to sound like I'm insensitive toward them. They are people. They deserve a roof over their head. But if they choose it, that's an entirely different situation. And so I think it's tricky because, and it has a hair trigger reaction because the fact is if we cater to it, we only create a much larger problem. As soon as there's a lot of sympathetic effort made toward that by a town or a municipality, that town or municipality gets filled up with them. That's very obvious. But one of the things I think would help is if we didn't have a whole bunch of empty buildings in town and grown-up lots. I think that would be a great place to start.
All right. For Wayne specifically, being that you travel for your business, how will you be able to work and still give attention to serving on the town council?
So I believe I get paid about $3,000 a year to hold a town council seat. And I believe that that's factored on so many hours per year. I think I can get that many hours. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I can guarantee you that I will do more than that in the time that I serve on the town council.
All right. For Wayne and Rocky, what strides have you taken to begin preparing to get informed about the challenges you face if elected?
Well, right now it seems to be the big thing is water and infrastructure. Right now on the books there's $22 million worth of improvements that we need. We have grants in for a lot of those. And we look at those almost every meeting. And without those, we can't make improvements. You know, the reason your water rates are so low is because this council, we are governed by points. And the reason we don't get a lot of grants is because our water rates are so low. Now, if your water rates are like one of our neighboring counties, they're paying $82 just for water. Now think about that.
So my response to that question is pretty simple, really. I don't know all the duties, the actual day-to-day duties of the town council, but in terms of the things that we're going to face, in terms of actual problems, infrastructure being one of them, as Rocky alluded to. That was one of my big motivations for running, as I said before, and I've been working for the past 3 years, talking to people that I think can help and trying to find out what's needed, why we don't have more funding for things like this. I want a clear answer from the people that, see, funding comes from the federal government, funding comes from the state, and in some cases from the county. There's a criteria to get that funding. And my question has been for the last 3 years is, have we as a town been negligent in providing that criteria? What can we do to make sure that we have that criteria in a manila folder whenever somebody asks? When the opportunity presents itself, is it ready to go? And so that's the focus that I have specifically with regards to infrastructure. In terms of budgets, in terms of the other duties of the town council, I have to assume that it's fairly similar, my limited experience, fairly similar to running a business. And I believe we can handle that.
Can I give you just some figures for a second? Right now, if you use 4,000 gallons of water inside the town of Spruce Pine, water and sewer, you could be around $63 a month. In order for us to get up front qualifying points on grant applications, for 4,000 gallons of water a month, your water bill would have to be at least $79 a month. And if you went over 4,000 a gallon, you can imagine what that would be up. So you pay $79 a month for water, $79 to $82 a month for sewer, so automatically you can figure what your water and sewer bill will be a month. We have always, in all the years that I was on council, tried our best to keep water and sewer rates at a rate where people living on fixed incomes, which we have a lot of people in downtown Spruce Pine, in our city limits, living on Social Security. But it may be a time when we have to do like the city of Burnsville done. And right now, their inside water and sewer rate is costing their citizens $161.88 a month. But they got qualifying points on a grant application. So those are hard issues and hard decisions to make. Our people on Social Security in Spruce Pine also pay taxes. They also buy food. They also buy drugs. So if you think it's an easy decision, it ain't. It ain't. It ain't. You just got to. Burnsville had to bite the bullet because Burnsville was in serious financial shape, worse than Spruce Pine, and their water and sewer is even worse. So they had to do it. They had to get grants. They had to get money. So right now, if you're living in the city of Burnsville for your water and sewer, if you're using 4,000 gallons of water a month, you're paying $161.88 a month for water and sewer.
One other thing I'll say about our water, there's no place in this state that has better water than Spruce Pine. We have 2 wells on Carter's Ridge. We have the Beaver Creek Dam. We have the Toe River intake. And if you come to any of our meetings, Donnie will tell you that we try to use Beaver Creek more than any of the rest of them because it's cheaper and it's more affordable. And we're blessed beyond measure.
All right. For any of you guys, what's planned, if anything, for the needs of resident housing expansion and/or activities for young people?
Well, if you have noticed in any of our park situations in Riverside and in Brad Dragon Park, there's been plenty of upgrades for young people there. We've built that splash pad. We have a playground for younger folks, the basketball courts, the tennis courts. We now have pickleball courts in our park system. Bunches of money has been spent on our parks to upgrade, to give people, or our, not only our children and our young children, but everybody, recreation in Spruce Pine. Do you realize that Spruce Pine citizens tax-paying citizens, provide those two parks to everybody in the county? I don't care where you live in Mitchell County, you can come to Brad Dragon Park or Riverside Park and enjoy that just like it's yours. But you need to thank the citizens of Spruce Pine for providing that for you, because their taxes is doing that. Housing, I think that the town of Spruce Pine, the involvement in affordable housing would be that we would provide services to it, but I don't think we use taxpayers' money to do anything with housing. That housing is just not really a town, it's not our job. We don't use taxpayers' money to provide housing. Now, we may provide services for housing, such as water and sewer and road scraping, trash removal, pickup, police protection, fire protection. We would provide all those services for them. Anybody else?
All right. How do you see this group of candidates, meaning the three of you, working to improve local perception of a town being stuck in the past and not looking to the future?
Well, there's one thing about it. If I'm going to live here, I'm going to brag on it. I'm not going to down everything that comes up about Spruce Pine. What I said a few minutes ago about everybody's attitude, it's got a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I'm kind of going to go down the same track. In some senses, you know, the Andy Griffith Show was a very, very popular show. And there's multiple reasons why it was a very popular show, but one of the biggest ones is because I still love to watch it, because it was stuck in the past. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to stay stuck in the past. Stuck is the wrong word for that. But there's something to be said for small town American community. There's something to be said for that. And there's something to be said there's something to be said for bringing people into that and teaching them how to survive in it. And a lot of that has to do, again, with us. And I'm not going to sit here and point out there and say it has to do with you. It does, but it has to do with us. I'm part of that. I'm a transplant. All of us have something to do with that. If we're not going to be neighbors, and we're not going to say, well, that's not the way it's done around here, and you may want to watch what you say because this person's sensitive to that, and we're sensitive in this community to this and this and this, and this is what it takes to survive in this community. You're not willing to teach people coming here what this community is about, and we're going to stay stuck, okay? But if we're all willing to be neighbors, and we're all willing to be hospitable, nobody does it like the people in the South, in the Mountain South. Be hospitable, bring them in, teach them the way around, and treat them like neighbors. And I guarantee you, we're not going to be stuck in the past. We might be stuck we may be traditional, but we're not going to be stuck in the past. There's a big difference between the two.
I think that Appalachian people are always going to be traditional, but we're welcoming too. I've lived here all my life, and I can't say, well, I moved here because of this or I moved here because of that. But there's some people in this audience today that can tell you why they come to Spruce Pine. They like their small town charm and their small town people. And we love one another and we look out for one another. Neighbors look out for neighbors. Don't matter if you've lived here 10 years or 50 years. So we don't want to lose that charm. I think that's why a lot of people are looking for homes in this area.
Yeah, I'll say this. Try getting terminally ill or incapacitated in the city and see what you got, especially if you've been transplanted there and don't have family there. And now try it here. And if you've done your homework as a transplant here and you've loved on your neighbors and you allowed your neighbors to love you back, you're going to see what they're made of. in a very, very, very real way. And I'm going to say this to all of us. If you know somebody's suffering, don't hesitate to try and get in their business. They might take it wrong. They might not like it, but you won't know until you try. Just because somebody doesn't like us being stuck in the past, don't stop being who you are.
Rocky, you want to shot that? Or? Good? Okay. All of you, your campaign signage, was it purchased locally?
I can tell you every dime I spent come from Pittman's signs in Spruce Pine.
Same.
Same, and value print.
Awesome. All of you, what is your stance on an empty building downtown, I assume, if a church wanted to occupy that building?
I would be more than welcome to have another church in that building myself. I think that churches, businesses, residents in this community have always coincided together. Our country's built on religion, whatever type you choose to practice. If there's a vacant building in the town of Spruce Pine, and the church is willing to remodel that building, bring it up to code and use it, I'm all for it.
Churches are one of the few organizations that can raise $250,000 to do upfit in cash. And if they're worth a hill of beans, they're going to outgrow those small places downtown. And then it gets sold to somebody who can use it for something else. Doesn't look like a problem to me.
We've already been faced with this same question, and you've seen how we reacted to it, so we're right on target.
Philip, are you really Lee Ellis's uncle?
Is Lee still here? I am no blood relation to Lee Ellis whatsoever. And that was kind of a joke, I guess, that Lee was my wife's uncle, and that's not so either. Although Lee is old enough to be her uncle, I guess, but no.
All right. What do you see the town of Spruce Pine doing to make sure the aging population is more capable of living independently in their own homes? For example, better sidewalks.
Well, if you've been through Spruce Pine, that's one of the things that's on Main Street's agenda is to improve the sidewalks. We spend probably up to $50,000 a year updating those sidewalks. And if you've been around town, you've seen where we do that. But one of the big things about enabling people to live in Spruce Pine, if you look at Asheville, these people that have inherited this land and it's become more valuable, much like Grassy Creek has Spruce Pine, taxes go up to where they can't afford to live there anymore. And I think this board and the boards previous have showed that to where our taxes here in Spruce Pine are affordable, and hopefully they'll stay that way.
There was a second part to this question. I'm sorry, I was having trouble reading it. Mentioned parking lots. You guys have thoughts on parking in downtown?
Downtown Spruce Pine's pretty limited to any direction we can go. We've got the railroad on one side, banks on the other side, and housing developments in Pine Avenue, Walden Avenue. The only chance Spruce Pine would have to increase parking in downtown area is put a second level on a parking deck, which is behind the Mitchell News Journal, and it was designed and set with steel to support a second parking level, which could be accessed directly from Oak Avenue or Upper Street, whichever you want to call it. That is an option, and it was thanks to the people who designed that to start with. It, from what I understand, is built to accept a second level. So that's the only chance I see of additional parking in Spruce Pine, unless the railroad gives us more room than we've got.
Yeah, I was going to start that comment by saying my daddy would have said I'm too big for my britches, but I think the only option we've got is to go up, and it has some to do with neighbors collaborating around that as well, because if even with the sidewalks, I know there was a bit of a struggle with getting people to sign off on putting additional sidewalks in certain places in town, and you know, it's perfect. That's their right. They're the property owners. It's their right to back away from it. But if we want to see those types of amenities, then we're going to have to work together for it. But yeah, I'd love to see us go up with parking spaces. I think that's the logical. We're built on a hill. I think it's a logical thing to do to go up with it. It's going to cost money. Cost more than paving a flat piece of land for sure. But it could add a lot to Spruce Pine.
The other candidates in this race that are not here this evening have received significant campaign contributions from outside money. Where did you get your money for your campaign, and did you spend it locally?
Well, like I said, I have spent every bit of the money that I've spent in town on my campaign material and signs. Pretty well, I've footed my own campaign here. I have reached into my own pocket for everything I've spent, really.
Myself personally, I've received less than $200 in contributions, and the other roughly $2,000 that were spent, or $1,500 that were spent, came out of my baby's bottles.
You broke a piggy bank, is that what you're saying?
The reason I don't take contributions is because I don't want to owe anybody anything.
Could we concentrate on our river, clean it up, and encourage kayaking and rafting, beautify the banks of the river to make it more attractive?
Well, the answer to that is yes, we could. We can, but you know, town of Spruce Pine also owns a tract of land below town off of Stroop Road. It is the next Spruce Pine Park. We already have that land cleared, and thanks to Sabelco Corporation, they come in there and cleaned it up, graded it. There's plans for a boat docks, picnic shelters, and a road access off of Stroop Road to that project, which is already begun to take place. So yes, we can use our river more. And I think if with it being a North Carolina trout stream, it's pretty well used and it's very clean. Those of you who lived here all your life, have you ever seen the river any cleaner than it is? I can remember days when that river was muddy and white, and it's pristine water now.
How many of y'all have canoed or kayaked or tubed from, let's say, Davenport Road down to Penland? About 5 of us, 6 of us, 10 of us. It's been a while, Kenny. So there's a couple of hurdles in the river that we do well to make sure that they get publicized. There's a low water bridge at the Quartz Corp that is, depending on the level of the water, is very dangerous. There's a dam below Spruce Pine that no longer exists. That was a great move in the right direction. I guess I'm saying that in my time living here, I've seen it going in the right direction. But in answer to the question, yes, any one of you is more than welcome to establish a business that supports that kind of tourism in this town. We need it here. And if we could get some landowners at the top of at Davenport or that area to commit a spot for offboarding and a transit back and forth, and somebody's willing to do that, and somebody's willing to feed that thing and turn it into business to help support the town, that's a great thing to do. But it's there for the taking. And I can tell you this, that the more people that float that, the more people are going to care about whether there's trash alongside the road, and they'll pick it up on their own. At least that's the way I operate.
I'll piggyback on that one. Railroad, and the history of the railroad. I guess that kind of goes along with that question. What are the chances of working with CSX to get something done in that regard finally?
What experience I've had with CSX come when I was Public Works Director, and we had a sewer line under the railroad that CSX was very difficult to work with. As a matter of fact, we never did get a right-of-way to put a sewer line under the railroad. They're not the old Clinchfield Railroad where you can ask somebody in town and they can say, well, yeah, go ahead. They're big time out of Jacksonville, Florida. And somewhat difficult to work with, but they have gave money on our bridge project. The walking bridge downtown, CSX didn't give money for that project. So maybe just in little baby steps at a time, we can work with CSX better. To say they're not difficult would be telling you a lie. They're difficult to work with, but like I say, maybe baby steps at a time we can work with them.
If y'all remember the fires we had in Spruce Pine, I'm sure Josh and several people remember that night. But we found out some needs in the fire department that we needed. And one of them was under the railroad where we could draft from the river. To this day, we never got that. We tried and we tried. And with the depot downtown, I know Richard, he's sitting here tonight, he tried forever to get something done with the depot. And CSX is very, very difficult to work with.
So I know just by what little bit of experience I have being here, that the first impulse to that question is big fat zero. That's everybody's first impulse to that question. I also know that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and there could possibly, I would love to see, there are people who come through Spruce Pine to watch the trains. And if there's a way to piggyback on the ego of CSX's railroad to help put overlooks through town to facilitate that, to garner us a bit of love from them, I think possibly that was part of the motivation for the donation to the bridge, because it's a great spot to stand and watch the train. Maybe we can find a way. Maybe there's a way. I would love nothing more than to see that whole flat piece across the railroad as a boardwalk and have a way to access that with food trucks. I understand that CSX does not want the liability of us crossing the railroad with food trucks. I get that. But something down that line, if there was a way to utilize that nasty piece of land that's unkept at this point and turn it into something that our kids and our families and the people and our visitors could enjoy, I would love to see that happen. And if there's any way that I can make that happen, I'll keep asking until we get an answer.
Let's not write off CSX, though. They are working with the town, and Libby can tell you that they are working with the town on the bridge project, and they did make a donation, and I think with some help we've got in Raleigh now, maybe we can have a further relationship with CSX. And we're going to try.
Old bridge or new bridge?
You know, there's not one of us here that don't want that bridge to stay. But you know, you got to look at realism, logically. The bridge we have cannot be ADA compliant. When you're offered a 80-20 match to build a new bridge that is ADA compliant, do you think the state's not going to help us fix this bridge? Not everybody can use it. So realistically and logically, you have to look at it. Does it make sense?
We don't want to limit the use of that bridge to anybody. Right now, if you're handicapped or in a wheelchair, you can't access that bridge, and if you got on it, you can't get off of it. And the money that Libby has worked so hard through Main Street to achieve in the town and all, I talked with a gentleman Sunday about it, and he says it's hard to fund something when you're restricting people that can't use it. We're looking hard at that, and the town's going to look hard at that. And if I'm elected mayor, it's going to be a tough decision. But I don't want to limit handicapped people to being able to use it. And I don't think this bridge that we've got now, no matter if we spend $3 million on it or what, I don't think it'll ever be handicap accessible. It just can't be.
This might knock me down a bit on the brownie points list, but I'm going to say it this way. If they're giving us the money, we got two choices. Take donations for $2.5 million or take the money.
All right, last question here. What are your thoughts about expanding the town geographically to incorporate a bigger tax base?
You're talking about annexation?
I think so.
I don't think we can forcibly annex anybody into the town anymore. It has to be a totally requested annexation. And when you look at that, you've got to look at, can you provide services for them? It's not only the revenue we receive from taxes, but can you extend water and sewer service? Can you extend garbage pickup? Can you extend police protection? Can you extend fire protection? All those things have to come right along really quick after annexation. And it may be that we'll have some areas in town just outside of town request annexation. Right now, the only thing I think a town that has any chance of annexing would be commercial or business and satellite annexation.
So if the answer to the question is additional revenues, and annexation is difficult to get to, then what about focusing on a robust water system and expanding the water before annexation takes place? We might be able to kill two birds with one stone with that.
Gentlemen, thank you. We're going to give you just a few minutes for a closing statement for each one of you. Philip, you want to start?
I am a lifelong citizen of Spruce Pine. I have served as mayor. I have served as board member. I've also served as the old guy down in the ditch when it's 18 degrees and standing in water up to your knees too. And so I think my range of experience is pretty wide. Not to brag, I'm not bragging. I just say I love Spruce Pine, and that's why I run for mayor. I guess my expertise would be in water and sewer because that's what I've done. I think I have the ability to see the needs. I know where the infrastructure areas are the weakest. I know where we need to work and what areas we need to work in. We can't bite off big area projects at a time. We've got to start small. Our major infrastructure water lines in Spruce Pine, I'm saying 6-inch and above, are most all ductile iron and PVC pipe. They're in good shape. What we're fighting in Spruce Pine is smaller water lines that have been put in 40, 50, 60 years ago when nothing was available but galvanized pipe. And it's rusting away, it's shot, and it's causing us the town constant problems. We've got to start in certain communities where Wayne lives. Laurel Avenue in that community over there has some of the, or not Laurel, but Hazel, has some of the oldest galvanized 2-inch and 1.5 and 3/4-inch water lines in the town. And if you want to ride up Hazel Avenue, you can follow the water line because you'll see the patches. We've got to get to work in areas. We can't jump out here and fix the whole thing at one time. It's got to be done in sections, and we've got to find money to do it with, and that's where we come into taking advantage of grants. And we also have a connection in Raleigh we need to be really taking advantage of. Willing to help us, both our senator and our representatives willing to help us in any way they can. If we find the projects, they'll help us find the funds.
So again, I'm an ideas guy. I live on ideas. I like forward-facing things. I'm wide open. I want to be your partner in ideas. So if you got ideas, send them my way. I want to hear the ideas. I would love to be part of an entrepreneurial booster group that is getting together a bunch of young, bunch of old, people with money, people that want to have some, and brainstorming about how to get some here for Spruce Pine, and bring some here and keep some here. So somebody puts that together, I'm all in, and I can't do everything, but I would love to take ideas and aggregate them and start putting the wheels under them. Like Philip said, there are some things in the works that have been in the works for quite a while. They've taken a long time to get into the works. And those things, if approached properly, will bear fruit for the next 3 years. And there's some changes coming to Spruce Pine that might surprise all of y'all. So I'm excited. There's some really good stuff happening if we can continue on the course that we're on.
Well, I just want to say a show of hands. How many people in here cannot vote in Spruce Pine? Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Appreciate the support. The people that's donated food, I appreciate y'all just showing up and your concern for Spruce Pine. No, we don't have all the answers, but we can work together.
And again, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. It's a great turnout. I appreciate every one of you that's come. I appreciate every merchant that fixed food, donated food. There's been a lot of hard work going into putting this together. I appreciate Chase and his buddy for giving us a live broadcast, and thank you all for being here.
Let's give these gentlemen a round of applause.